Thank you. How's everybody doing? Everybody great? I know some might, wow, I can't see a freaking, is it okay if I curse? Yeah. Fuck, you already paid me, right? So you're stuck, right? I can't see, I know one of my great friends for many years, Elliot's out. Wherever you are, Elliot, hello, you're out here. My friend Ilya's here, okay? And a lot of other friends as well. Rachel's here. So listen, guys, those of you who know me know that I love to speak. Some of you, I'm sure, probably more than half of you, have a fear of public speaking. If you were honest, you'd say, yes, I hate speaking publicly. Well, I have a fear of not public speaking. You can't shut me up once I get started, right? So 45 minutes is a very short period of time for me. As they said, usually it's 3 hours to 3 days. But I was thinking about, like, what can I offer, you know, a room of a few thousand people in 45 minutes that can really make a difference, a profound difference, that you can get some takeaways that you can use in your business life, in your personal life, to be more effective, to make more money, and just to feel better about doing it. I think so many people go out there and they feel stressed out at the process of making money. They don't feel congruent about it, as if they don't have to be themselves in some way. And one thing I want to tell you is that when I discuss the straight line system tonight, is that's what I'm going to try to teach you as much as I can in this short period of time, right? What I don't want you to think is that it's about becoming the way I am, selling like me, sounding like me. What it's about is the opposite. It's becoming congruent with yourself, the best communicator that you can possibly be. Now, here's the deal. The biggest misconception out there in matters of success is that there's so many people, entrepreneurs, business owners, even lay people who aren't in sales but are trying to work their way up the corporate ladder. They think that sales training or just sales itself is just for salespeople. And nothing, is it possible to lower these lights just a little bit so I can see the eyes? I love seeing people's eyes. Or else I'm gonna have to crouch down and see people. Okay, so if you can just lower them a little bit. So people think that sales is just for salespeople, and nothing could be further from the truth. Sales is really everything in life. It's about communicating your thoughts, your ideas, your hopes, your dreams, to be able to connect with other people in a way that moves them to take action, right? To say yes, and also get you what you want to. Ethical persuasion, so to speak. And the idea that you can go through life without having this skill at a reasonable level, not necessarily an expert, but to be at least good enough, is a very, very odd way to look at success. The bottom line is, no matter who you speak, think back. Look at whether it's you know, a Wozniak and a Steve Jobs. One guy, tech genius, other guy, marketing salesperson. Bill Gates started Microsoft, right? How did he do it? He persuaded someone, IBM, to give him the contract before he even had the program, then convinced someone else to sell him the program on a song, and so on and so forth. We see it in all walks of life, right? You could be a mom trying to influence your kids to make their beds, their homework. You could be a teacher trying to influence your students on the value of education, a lawyer trying to influence a jury on the innocence of your client. You could be an entrepreneur trying to convince people to lend you money, give you money, invest in you and your company and your idea. Without that one skill, every other skill you have is diminished. It really is. Imagine, like, if you had this, like, your idea is worth X. Well, that idea can either be multiplied or divided by, depending on your ability to explain it to people, to get them excited about it, and to get them to essentially buy into it, both their time, their money, whatever it might be. In the case of investors, it would be their money. In the case of time, would be people you want to recruit. I'll tell you this, the ability to recruit people to come work for you, and by the way, a lot of success is dependent on that, is based on your ability to get them excited about your vision for the future. So please, there's one thing that you take away from tonight. Just understand sales and just called communication. It's not just for salespeople. It's for anybody, bottom line. So in that context, I want to basically explain to you what, in my mind, I believe sales really is, how does it apply to everything that we do, and what really happens when somebody goes from saying, let me think about it, or let me call you back, or it's a bad time of year, let me speak to my partner, whatever it might be, and they go from that to saying yes. Now remember, one of the biggest misconceptions out there in sales and persuasion is that salespeople turn no's into yeses. Now, that's not true. That is not what a great salesperson does. A great salesperson will quickly and elegantly sift through a pipeline of potential clients, eliminate the ones very quickly who are not going to say, have no chance of saying yes, the hard no's, not interested. Get those out of the way very quickly, and takes the balance, the people who are qualified financially, they have a need for the product, it will benefit them, and takes those people, and as we say in the straight line, moves them down the straight line, puts them through the process from the open to the close, and gets them to buy. So we're not in the business of taking a no and turning it into a yes. That's a fool's errand. And if you do that, you're going to waste your time. You're going to start getting very bad feedback. Like, gee, I don't know, I sound great. Why isn't anybody saying yes, right? So it's just a thing you have to avoid at all costs. So that being said, what is it that really happens? What occurs in someone's mind when they go from saying, let me think about it, to saying yes? And you, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, how do you essentially take that information and use it in a way to get someone to move from where they are to where you want them to be, right? That's what sales really is. And at the highest level, I have 2 boards up here. Usually I have 4, but we only have 45 minutes, so 2 will have to survive, right? Suffice, right? So here's the deal. At the highest level, sales is the transference of emotion. That's what's happening. You're transferring emotion. And the emotion that you're transferring is called certainty. This is what's going on. You're transferring this emotion of certainty. So imagine this scenario. You're a salesperson and you're selling, let's say, a car, right? A certain or an insurance policy, right? And you walk into the encounter. You have to be absolutely, positively certain that your product is the best, your program fits their needs the best. It's essentially the best thing out there on the market. You need to be, imagine a continuum, like a line, watch. So we have a 1 on one side of the continuum and a 10 on the other. And a 10 represents you being in a state of absolute certainty, meaning you yourself as the influencer, the salesperson, you are, or the entrepreneur, are absolutely certain that your idea is the best, that your product is the best, that people should invest in you, your company, and so forth, right? That's where you are. And on the other end of the continuum, you have the number 1, which means it's basically the biggest piece of shit in the world, right? Call it absolute uncertainty. Like, your insurance policy's terrible, no one in their right mind would fucking buy it, it stinks, you're embarrassed to even be selling, right? That's a 1 on the certainty scale, right? So, here's a pretty obvious question, I'll ask anyway. So you, as the salesperson, where do you want to be on this continuum when you enter the equation? Where do you want to be? As close to a 10 as possible, right? And your goal, essentially, is to take that certainty and essentially transfer it to the prospect to move them up to a higher level. Essentially, you're transferring your certainty to another human being to move them up to a higher level. So the question is, where does the average prospect start off on this continuum? Do they start off at a 3, a 5? Anyone know where they start off? Who the fuck knows? I'm not Kreskin, right? I mean, I'm not, right? I don't know where they are, but here's what I do know. They're somewhere. Because they're not, we spoke about Mars, they're not from Mars. They're from planet Earth. No matter what you're selling, no matter what you're recommending, no matter what investment you're purporting to is the best, right? As soon as you mention it, we have preconceived notions, we have experiences we tap into, and we get this sense of how we feel. We immediately land somewhere on this certainty scale. We land somewhere. Now, if it's a well-known product, like an iPhone, right, that everyone knows and many people love, right? Well, then when you walk into a store to buy an iPhone, you already start off at a very high level of certainty. You've owned them before, it's got a blue chip reputation, right? On the flip side of the equation, I'm not gonna take anything away from, let's say, timeshare sales of vacation properties, but let's say you're a timeshare salesperson, right? And there's been negative articles about timeshares, and you're selling that. Well, when the average person walks in, gets dragged in usually, right? they'll enter the equation at probably a lower level, maybe a 2 or a 3 on the certainty scale. But the point is this. Every person you speak to, every person that you negotiate with, every person you try to raise money from, every person you try to recruit, whatever idea you're trying to get across, the second you mention it, they immediately fall somewhere on this scale of certainty. They immediately drop somewhere based on everything they've heard and seen and read about and experienced since the day they were born. The unconscious mind stores it all, and zap, it's a gut feeling that pops up, and it bubbles up, and they land somewhere at, let's say, a 5 or a 6. So essentially, what are you doing when you persuade, when you sell, when you close? Well, what you're doing is you're saying things, you're doing things, you're acting a certain way, you're talking in a certain way, tonalities, right? Body language, you might be showing them certain documents. Everything you're doing is specifically designed to essentially take the certainty that you have inside of you, transfer it to this person, to essentially move them as high as possible on this scale, as close to as possible as a 10. Does that make sense to everyone? Right? So yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when they sell is they don't really understand what's happening. What am I actually trying to do here? And it's really as simple as that. When you're selling, and whether it's a salesman or just trying to raise money, whatever you're doing, right? Persuading, influencing, negotiating, everything that you say, everything that you do, every document that you pass someone, every case you try to make is all feeding into this one overarching principle that I want to move someone to as high as possible on this certainty scale as possible. So imagine this. When we talk about certainty, what instantly pops into our mind is the product. And I mentioned it before, the iPhone, okay? Now, you guys know I was in the stock market, all right? Back in the day, right? So we all make mistakes, right? I heard my man Steve Forbes, who I respect a lot, say, we all make mistakes, right? We all fail and come back, right? And I'm a big believer in that, thank God, okay? But by the way, we learn a lot more from our failures than we do from our successes. And that's one of the keys about failure. I want to just very briefly, diverge there, is that, when it comes to entrepreneurship, and I teach entrepreneurship as well as sales, right? And I always think of entrepreneurship in 2 separate columns. You have on one side of the equation what I call learning how to fail elegantly. Now, this means learning how to go into business in a way so when you're wrong, and you're going to be wrong more than you're right as an entrepreneur, that you minimize on the financial loss, the time loss, the pain you feel. And my good friend Elliot and I, we had our massive failure together in our early 20s in the meat business, right? And we got into this business together, and it was a fucking disaster. I mean, like, literally, it was so bad. Like, the day we started this business, Hurricane Gloria pissed down 30 inches of rain on us. We started the business in someone's muddy backyard, and it sunk into the center of the earth. That was foreshadowing what happened next. But Ellie and I were great salesmen. We dug it out of the mud, and for a year and a half, 2 years, we did and I was a great salesman, great trainer. Ellie was a great salesman. I trained salesmen. I grew from 1 truck to 26 trucks. We were making a ton of money. We thought we leased a Porsche and a Continental, right? Well, it turned out we were making every mistake that young entrepreneurs make. We were overexpanding, we were undercapitalized, we were growing on credit, okay? And before we knew it, just like that, we were out of business and bankrupt at 23. Now, what I didn't realize at the time, we often don't, is that when it's happening, you think it's the worst thing in the world, it's a disaster, it's so painful, but yet, what I learned from that failure paved the way for every success that I had. Learning things about, how do you get into business and test ideas out. Make sure that you go into business properly capitalized, that you don't overexpand, that you don't grow on credit. All the things that for experienced entrepreneurs, they seem obvious. Well, for people starting out, they're not so obvious. So you must learn what these things are. There are rules to business, and that fundamental rules, you must learn how to fail elegantly, which means go into business in a manner that allows you to be wrong and minimize on the pain and the loss financially and time and maximize on the lessons learned. That's half of the equation. And on the other half of the equation, you have what I called learning how to succeed wildly. Meaning, what do you do when the shit is right? Every once in a while, and it is every once in a while, you test an idea and it's better than you thought. It actually works better than you thought. And everything, for whatever reason, it's all the moon's in the 7th house and Jupiter's aligned. When you get it all, the whole thing's just working. Well, how do you take a small business and turn it into a big business? How do you take a big business, turn it into a multinational company? How do you go public? How do you do all the things that allow you to really become a powerhouse? That's an entirely different set of rules than there are for failing elegantly. In fact, they're almost exact opposite of failing elegantly, how you go about doing that. Now, and I don't have time to go into all that stuff, but I just want you to be aware, okay, that in terms of failure, remember, failure is a part of life, it's a part of business, and the one lesson I always give to my own son, I love my son, right? I said, Carter, I said, you're not the failures of the past. You're the resources and capabilities that you glean from the past. With every mistake that you make, you actually get stronger if you're willing to learn from your mistakes and not dwell in them. And that's the key. Does that make sense? Yes? Yes. Okay, you go through life like that, realizing that when things don't go your way and you make mistakes, and sometimes, by the way, it's through no fault of your own, bad timing, and many times it is your own fault, whatever it may be, the idea is to take those lessons, become stronger, try again, put one foot in front of the other. And I'm living, breathing testimony that when you do that, and you know the rules of business, and you know how to close the deal, you can make miracles happen. You really can. But in the absence of that one crucial skill, it's not the only skill, but it's in the absence of this one skill, which is the ability to close the deal, it is really, really hard to make money in this world. It's really hard. It is, because nothing really happens until someone sells something. I don't care what business that you're in. So that being said, getting back to this whole thing of a continuum between a 1 and a 10, let me ask you this. When we speak about certainty, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? The product, right? Like, they must be certain about my product, right? So imagine this. You're selling an insurance product, right? Whatever, let's say life insurance, and you sit down with your prospect, right? And when you sat down, as soon as you opened up his mouth, let's say he popped into he was a 5 on the certainty scale, and you went about transferring your certainty to him through using, and I'll explain the straight line in a moment. First, I want to give you the context of it first, of how you use the straight line, okay? But you're able to say things and do things and make that airtight, logical case, okay? Transfer this emotional story so by the time you're done, this person is at a 10 on the certainty scale. They are damn sure that your product is the best fit for them. It's going to give them the protection they need, give them the peace of mind they need, protect their family in the case of a terrible happening like a death or whatnot, right? The question is this: if you get them to a 10 on the certainty scale, will they buy? Yes or no? Yes. The answer is maybe. I'll tell you why. What if, in the process of transferring that certainty, of saying things and doing things, what if in that process you somehow pissed the person off? You did it in a way that made them not trust you, break rapport with you, feel like there's something, I don't know, just not right about you, and let's say they don't trust you and connect you. Will they buy, yes or no? No fucking way. They won't. They'll say, oh yeah, great. They'll go buy from someone else the same product. People don't buy things from people who they don't trust and who they don't connect with. They just don't do it. They will not buy. So when we think about certainty, all of a sudden say, okay, wait a second. It's not just certainty about the product we sell, and that could be a tangible product, an intangible product. It could be an idea. It could be anything, right? It could be the idea of investing in my company. If you're an entrepreneur trying to raise money, it could be the idea of someone coming to work for you if you're trying to recruit somebody. So it's just not enough that you get someone absolutely certain about the idea itself, the product, whatever it might be. They also must be certain about you, the influencer, you yourself. They have to trust and connect with you. So again, now imagine this. What I'm driving at here is something called the 3 10s, which is straight line terminology, and I'll explain it in a minute, the 3 10s. The first 10 is that they must love your product. That means from a 1 to a 10, you want to get into as high as possible on the certainty scale. You can't always get into a 10, but as close as humanly possible. That's number one. At the same time, while you're doing that, remember, and I'm going to get into this in much more detail in a minute, the second someone lays eyes on you, they also, within 4 seconds, they make a decision about you. And they'll pop into a number. They'll give you a number. Do they trust you? You might be a 7 or an 8. They might like you instantly, get a great first impression, or they might feel the opposite, which is very problematic. So again, as you're speaking, as you're influencing, you're not just trying to move them to a 10 about the product. You also want to move them to a 10 about you, the influence. They must trust and connect with you. Does that make sense? Yes? Good. So let me ask you this question. Let's say you do that, and you give this kick-ass presentation, and when you're done, they are saying, wow, I mean, I love this product, makes great sense. I think this is a great salesperson. I can trust him. I think he'll be an asset to my family, to myself for the long term. I can see him really doing the right thing by me, being there in good times and bads, giving great customer service. Will they buy now? Yes or no? Maybe, right, because you probably somebody read the book I wrote. Okay? And the answer is maybe. Why? Because there's a third element involved here, too. They must also trust and connect with the company that stands behind the product. In other words, it's not just enough that someone loves your idea or product, trust and connects with you. They must trust and connect in some manner the team, the company that stands behind what you're doing. So in essence, when I speak about creating certainty, when you're transferring certainty, we're not just talking about certainty about your product. And this, if there's one thing that you take away from tonight on the technical side, is that you're never just selling the product that you're selling. You're always selling yourself, and you're always selling the company or the institution that stands behind your product. Those three things are always right at the base of your prospect's goal, and he's thinking about them. So in the same way, you know the movie The Italian Job? You know the movie with the safe crackers, right? You know when they're gonna crack a safe, right? Well, how does a safe cracker go about cracking a safe? They do it one number at a time. They'll spin for a number, they hear a click. Well, one of those clicks is they must love your product. That's one click. The other click, they must trust and connect with you. And the third click, they must trust and connect with your company. That's the first 3 of 5 numbers in someone's buying combination. So now let me move backwards now and give this some context and explain to you exactly what the straight line system is. And this is where it's going to really start to make sense. And by the way, the only reason I'm speaking so fast is I only got 45. I'm trying to cram 3 hours into 45 minutes, or else I would slow down, okay? So let me just take a sip of my apple juice here. I'm a big mark. This is my liquid cocaine over here. Yeah. So, I don't know which one. Apple juice, cocaine. I'm sober for many, many years now, so this is my vice, you know? Red Bull, I want a sponsorship. Okay, here. I'll put this right here so it doesn't spill. I'm a spiller, right? Elliot knows I'm a spiller. Okay? So, what is the straight line system? How can I teach you in 25 minutes right now? And by the way, my goal right now is to give you as much as I can. I'm gonna just pour the shit on right now, okay? So just you know, I'm gonna download as much as I can and give you some really usable. I wish I had longer, okay? But let me give you as much as I can right now, and I think I can clarify some things that will really help you close a lot more sales Monday morning. And when I say sales, I don't just mean as a salesman. Whatever your outcome is, whatever your persuasion outcome is. That's what I'm talking about. So please don't make this a sales. It's a big mistake. You shortchange yourself. In fact, I have one video I want to play. It's very short. And it's from someone I have a great respect for. If you put this, it's from Warren Buffett, right? And it's Warren Buffett. And he was at a speech with Bill Gates. By the way, if this fucking works, I'll be shocked. Because like every time it never works. Play the video. It's dead silence, crickets, right? Okay. Anyway. I did it like every country, the same thing else, right? Maybe it's America, it'll work, right? Okay? No offense to anybody, but I'm offending everyone. Okay, anyway. So here's the deal. It's an important to me, this is such a telling video because I look at Warren Buffett, and if you asked Warren Buffett, like, if there was one thing you could invest in, right? One thing, I want to bet because I want to see people, right? If there's one thing you could do, like, what would it be? What would be the most important skill? What's the most important thing you could learn? If you were going to take a course, invest in yourself, perfect a certain skill, and Warren Buffett, what would you think he'd say? Reading stock tables, learning how to analyze companies. That's not what he says. What he, in fact, says is persuasion. Communication. He was speaking to about 5,000 or 6,000 students, I think it was Michigan's many years ago, and he's speaking at a forum with Bill Gates, and he gets asked the question by a graduating student saying, what can we do as young people entering the workplace to make ourselves more valuable? How can we ensure our own success? And you know what he says? Take a course in learning how to sell and communicate. Because here's the deal. That's what Warren Buffett did when he was in his 20s. When he graduated from college, he was this brilliant guy, right? Knew all the stuff about, you know, picking stocks, analyzing companies, but he was terrified to speak publicly, he's terrified to communicate. He went out, and back then, the gold standard was Dale Carnegie. He took a course, learned how to sell, communicate, changed his life. In the absence of that, you know what he'd be, Warren Buffett? The most talented money manager in Omaha, Nebraska that no one ever heard of. That's what he would be. So can you play this? Is it possible? Thumbs up. Go.
Right now, I would pay $100,000 for 10% of the future earnings of any of you. So anybody wants to see me after this is over. And, now, if that's true, you're $1 million asset right now, right? If 10% of you is worth $100,000, you could improve the value. Many of you, and I certainly could have when I got out, just in terms of learning communication skills. You know, it's not something that's taught. But if you improve your value 50% by having better communication skills, that's, you know, it's another $500,000, you know, in terms of capital value. See me after the class and I'll pay you, you know, $150,000.
Everyone, I just want to, just for your own belief, I have nothing to sell you here. I'm just trying to explain to you, don't go through life thinking that the skills that you have, because every business, every line of success requires specialized skills. It does. But they all require the ability to explain what you have to other people in a way that moves them to take action without pissing them off, holding their interest. Does that make sense? Yes? You can improve your life dramatically by learning how to communicate. And here's the irony. Here's the danger. The human brain is really fucking smart. It is. It's really smart. And if you lack that skill, or you're not 100% comfortable with it, you know. Your brain knows, and in your heart of hearts, you know. So what happens is when you're thinking about your ideas for the future, your goals, your vision, and you start trying to play out that movie, you say, you know what, I can't really see myself succeeding. I can't imagine myself doing it. Because you feel like, you know, I don't know how to talk to people. You couldn't see yourself being the sort of person that goes out there and makes shit happen. Now, if there's one thing that I've seen from the straight line, from people from all, I've taught this now for, you know, started back in 88, right? 1988, I'm old, right? But I've been teaching it for the last 10 or 12 years all over the world to people in all walks of life. And there's one common theme that they'll write on my Facebook wall, like these things like, you know, it just changed my life because it made me more assertive. It made me feel like it just gave me the power to go out and feel like I could go out and succeed. So it's an intangible factor you get when you feel confident enough to go out there and get your point across to people. It makes you want to take action. That's what happens. It drives, and without taking action, nothing really happens. Like, you know, I know some of you might love the book The Secret. You've read The Secret, right? I like The Secret. It's a good book, right? But here's the problem I have with The Secret. If you read The Secret, you can get this idea. It'll say, if you want to make $50,000, here's what you do. Go into your house, sit on the couch, turn down the lights, drop the shades, get into a nice, calm, meditative state, and imagine a check for $50,000 showing up in your mailbox. And just see your name on the check and attract that check into your mailbox and attract that fucking check into your mailbox and really put it out into the fucking ether and attract that check into the mailbox. And sure enough, a check for $50,000 will show up in your mailbox. Honestly, if that's your strategy for success, the only thing that will show up in your mailbox is a fucking eviction notice. Right? Your wife's off banging the next door neighbor. You're like, where's my check? Where's my check? I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those unfortunate schnooks that has to take action to get what I want. I have to move towards the things I want. Now, here's the irony, though. The secret's real. See, you do attract what you want, but you got to move towards it. You move in. It's like that. You remember the experiment? I'm going to go over in my time. I always know. Sorry, guys. Okay, but here's the deal, right? Because I got to just tell you this, right? From the heart. When I was in third or fourth grade, I remember this experiment with magnetism, and they'd show you the horseshoe magnet and the iron filings, right? And the teacher paused and the magnet's here, nothing happens. And she moves it closer, and nothing happens. And she moves it closer, nothing happens. And all of a sudden, close enough, and the magnet attracts. You have to get close to the shit that you want to attract it. It doesn't happen sitting at home on your couch. So what the secret does, the way it really works in the real world, and I don't understand it all, some of it's out there in the fucking ether, but the point is, the way I have seen it work in my life, and in many other successful people, is that once you start to focus on what you want, it activates that part of your brain that teaches you to focus on certain things so the opportunities don't pass you by. Why did I write the book, The Wolf of Wall Street? I wrote the book, I'll tell you why, the original book. I wrote it because I ended up in jail, and believe it or not, who's my bunkmate? Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong. I shit you not. They throw me in jail, and he's my bunkmate. So I'm like, oh yeah, I heard you were there. I said, yeah, I heard you were coming, right? I don't mean like in the same jail, in the same cell they put us in, right? We became friends, so we're telling each other stories at night, and I'm telling him stories. My yacht sank, he's laughing his ass off, and on the third night, he comes to us, you know, Jordan, honestly, I thought you were full of shit. But my wife Googled you, and it's all true. I can't believe it, because you gotta write a book. And I said, well, I don't know how to write, just write the way you speak. I tried that, it doesn't work, okay? My writing was so bad, I gave Tommy my pick. He goes, that really sucks, Jordan. I'm like, oh, thanks, Tommy, tell me what you really think, right? He's got a habit of really calling a horse's ass, right? It's a gift he has, right? So anyway, long story short, how did I learn to write? I learned to write after 1 month of failing, being so bad at it. I went into the prison library. Yes, they have libraries in prison. I stumbled upon a book called Bonfire of the Vanities. And the second I started reading that book, I'm like, oh my God, I want to write like that. I read through the book, plowed through it, and I took out my highlighter and I used it as a textbook. What happened? And I learned his strategy for writing. How does he introduce characters? How does he use the different tenses? Like, I didn't even know what the word had, H-A-D. I didn't fucking know it existed, because you say it so fast. I'm like, why isn't my shit making sense? You know, and I learned about metaphors, how you describe women, about men, how you describe places, how you use, I learned how to write by modeling Tom Wolfe's strategy. And then, of course, I had to go next to Hunter S. Thompson because of all the drugs. I felt compelled, right? And my next book was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Those two books taught me how to write. Here's my point. In everything you try to do in life to succeed, there are specialized skills required. There are. There's going to be certain skills required. You must learn those skills. And no matter what it is, one of them is going to be the ability to persuade, to influence, to get your point across. I invented the straight line system because I found myself in a very unique situation. Elliot was one of the few people that was very, very intelligent, but I was employing these very young kids, not very sophisticated, right? Average IQ. If any of you are here, I don't mean you, okay? I'm speaking in broad terms, okay? The average IQ of my original guys was like Forrest Gump on 3 hits of acid, okay? If any of you here, I didn't mean it. It's just a joke, right? Okay. They weren't the sharpest tools in the shed. And here's the thing. They weren't the Ivy League diplomas, right? There was no members of the Lucky Sperm Club, right? My guys were the downtrodden, the forgotten sons and daughters of Long Island and Queens that had never been told by their parents that they were capable of greatness or deserved greatness. And any greatness that they naturally had in them had been beaten or conditioned out of them since the day they were born. When they walked into my boardroom at 18, 19 years old, they'd been conditioned to survive, not to thrive. It started with their parents, then their own school teachers, their friends, the media. They'd been told they were average and no more. And then came something which came as the great equalizer, which was the straight line system. I invented it because I came up with an idea to start selling $5 stocks to the richest 1% of Americans, all right? Not pennies, it's $5 to the richest 1%, and my guys couldn't do it. I had to come up with a new way of selling. Let me just go through this really, really quickly, okay? Because we're out of time here, right? So what happens, I have to come up with this new way of selling, and for 30 days, I was trying the old way. They couldn't do it. They couldn't close sales. Meanwhile, I was closing sales, Danny was closing, my junior partner, Danny. Elliot hadn't even gotten to the firm yet, right? So I had this conundrum. I'm like, wait a second. I'm closing rich people. Danny, my junior partner, great natural-born salesman, closing rich people. Yet my 12 guys, they can't close a fucking door. I'm like, what is going on? We're calling the same leads, right? Listen to this shit, right? We're calling the same stack of leads. I wrote the same script, right? And I'm closing 30%, Dave's closing 20%, they're closing 0%. Zero. After a few weeks of this, the brokers wanted to go back to selling penny stocks, right? I was like, fuck that. I knew there was money in this, right? The reason I knew is because the first trade was done by Danny. Let me just tell you this very quickly, okay? Fuck. I have 7 minutes left. Shit. Can I go over for like 10 minutes? Can I go 10 minutes over? Is it cool? Yes? All right. I got to sip of I need some more Coke here. Just kidding. I'm sober 25 years. Okay. No, I don't do drugs. I'm serious. I swear. Don't be looking at me. Okay. The average penny stock trade was like $1,000, right? That was what you make, and you make a few $100 in commission. Well, the first trade in the new system, Danny got, and we were both dialing through our DMVs, our leads, and he got the first guy on the phone, right? And he hangs up the phone a couple minutes later. I was in my office, he was in the boardroom. He walks in, he's got this ashen look on his face. I'm like, what happened? He goes, the guy bought $120,000 worth and apologized for working so small. Now, I made $70,000 on that one trade. Listen, what I did was wrong, okay? I'm just talking about the power of what happened here, okay? So don't look at anything good about that. But I'm just trying to say here that it was 120 times bigger than the average trade, if you could call rich people. But so I said to him, I looked out into my boardroom with these 12 Forrest Gump guys. I'm like, fuck. I said, fuck, I'm gonna be rich. All I gotta do is figure out how to train these 12 nincompoops so I can be the richest guy ever, right? Simple as that. You know, they have an expression, easier said than done. I tried everything to train these guys to get to close. They couldn't close. And it was driving me crazy. Finally, after 30 days of trying every sales system out there, they were at their wits' end. They wanted to go back to selling penny stocks. I didn't want to go there, right? I knew there was such an opportunity. So we called one of these nighttime marathon sessions. I did 3 hours at nighttime. I'd come back and just train these guys in all the stuff I was using before the straight line. So I knew it was make or break, and I was so angry that night. I remember being so angry, right? I came back, and I looked at there was like 13 guys in the boardroom. I said, all right, guys, tell me, what the fuck is so hard about this? I just don't understand. Why you can't, I'm doing it, Danny's doing it. Why is it so hard? This is before you got here, Elliot. You came a little bit later, right? You were at Bear Stearns at the time. They're doing fucking great now. Another story, okay? You were at Bear Stearns at the time, right? Anyway, point being, so I'm not alone, okay? Point being, okay, is that I said, what is so hard about this? Tell me, because we're not leaving until we get to the bottom. Dead silence. I was like, come on, tell me. Some guy goes, there's too many objections. He goes, yeah, thousands of objections. There's thousands of objections. I'm like, thousands? Yeah, they keep hitting us with objections. It's impossible. I said, okay, great. There's thousands. Great, let's write them all fucking down right now, because we're not leaving. Go ahead, list them. Silence. Some guy goes, they want to think about it. I said, great, they want to think about it. I wrote, think about it. Come on, keep going. What's next? Want to talk to their wife. What's next? Bad time of year. What's next? Got to talk to my partner. What's next? My local broker, right? Not liquid, blah, and on and fucking on they went. And on they went. And on they went. And it kept going and going and going until they were finally done. And the board was filled. And there was 14 fucking objections. That was it. Not thousands. 14. And of those 14, half of them were duplicate variations of two. One is, it's a bad time of year. It's Christmas time. It's back to school time. It's tax time. It's fucking Groundhog's Day, right? Next one, I gotta speak to my wife, my partner, my lawyer, the fucking butcher, the baker, the candlesman, the tooth fairy, right? Same shit. There was like 7 objections. And in that moment, I looked into the room and I got so angry and something just came over me. It was really weird. And all of a sudden, it hit me. I said, don't you guys get it? I'm like, every sale is the same. They're like, what? I said, every sale is the same. I said, watch. And then something just occurred. I said, it's a straight line. And it just popped in my head. And for the first time, I drew this long, thin, straight line across the board and put an X on either end. I said, this is your open, this is your close. And every once in a while, back when you were selling penny stocks at least, every once in a while you get one of these perfect, we call them lay-down sales, where for everything you say and everything you do and everything that you question, it's as if the client's prospect is almost pre-sold. Yes, 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 yes machines. And when you ask for it, they say, yes, let's do it. That's like your perfect straight line sale, a lay-down sale. Now, as salesmen, or salespeople, it's gender neutral for me, okay? And I don't distinguish, right? Salesmen, we get those every once in a while, right? But typically, that's not how things go. Things don't stay exactly on the straight line. Your clients, you want to keep them on the straight line, going from the open to the close, but they want to interrupt you, go off the straight line. They want to ask you questions, talk about the price of tea in China. So they want to take you off the line. You want to keep them on the line, so you have these healthy boundaries above and below the line. When you're inside these boundaries, you're called what's in control of the sale. You're in control. Outside of the boundaries, you're out of control. They're in control. You talk about, up here, you're flying off to Pluto over here. You're in Pluto here. You're your anus down here, right? Not a good place to be. Your anus, for most of us at least, right? I don't judge, okay? In control, out of control. What I realized, let me break it down, because you have a couple minutes. Let me break it down. What I realized is that there was a certain way I had of speaking that as soon as the clients would hear my voice or Danny's voice, in those first few seconds, they were perceiving me a certain way, and because of that, they would defer to me. They would essentially hand me control of the sale. They let me take control of the conversation. See, I wasn't getting interrupted. I wasn't getting objections in the front. I said to myself, wait, how the fuck, why are they getting objections in the front part of the sale? They haven't even asked for the order yet. It didn't make sense. Why would someone object before you ask for the order? They were being fucked with, basically, right? By smart, wealthy CEOs, some of the toughest people in the world. They were being fucked with because they weren't being perceived in the right way. And here's what I said to them, which is true to this very day. I said, and I'll tell you why, because I actually got disproved a little bit. I said, guys, you have 4 seconds, whether it's over the phone, in person, even less, you got 4 seconds to establish 3 crucial things in the mind of your prospect, and if you don't do this, you are done. Let me tell you what those 3 things are. In those first 4 seconds, they must perceive you as being, number 1, sharp as a tack. Sharp, on the ball, sharp as a tack. Number 2, enthusiastic as hell. You're enthusiastic, you love what you have, right? And number 3, an expert in your field. An expert in your field. Sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, an expert in your field. Those 3 things must come across in the first 4 seconds of a conversation, or else you're done. Now, as I said, I was disproven wrong many years later. This is true. You can Google it. Harvard University did a study on this exact thing, on first impressions in a business setting. And you know what they found out? It's 5 seconds. I'm fucking sorry, okay? It's not 4. And here's what else they found out, which shocks me to this very day. That if you make, you can look it up, if you make a negative impression, first 4 or 5 seconds, they say, it takes you 7 subsequent meetings to reverse that impression. I don't know about you. Who gets 7 fucking chances, right? You got 1 and you're done. Here's what was happening. My guys were young, they were inexperienced, they didn't sound like experts. We have been conditioned since we're yay big by our parents, Respect your elders. You went to the doctor. He was an expert. He asked you questions. You answered. He had a diploma on the wall. He had a stethoscope. You were taught to respect authority, to essentially let experts take control of the sale. When we're in the presence of an expert, we defer. We let them ask us, we let them guide the situation. When we think we're not in the presence of an expert, we abuse them. We take control. Expert in your field. Number one, sharp as attack. That you're on the ball, you're not going to waste time. Number two, enthusiasm. Now here's a big one. You'll say, oh, come on, enthusiasm. People will see through that. I'm not talking about that, oh my God, like my fucking practice, like that bullshit enthusiasm. That's bullshit. That's repulsive too. I'm talking about what's called bottled enthusiasm. It's a tone of voice that's below the surface. It's a way of speaking where it's almost inside you, seething like a volcano, ready to erupt, but you don't erupt because you're in control, you're an expert. It's a way of speaking that when people hear like, wow, he must have pretty good because he's here. She's really excited about this. It comes across and it cannot be denied. Sharp as attack, enthusiastic as hell, an expert in your field. And what that chunks up to, what it really means, is that in the prospect's mind, they say, this is a person worth listening to. That's what they say. Because, at a higher level still, they can help me achieve my goals. They can help me get what I want, what I need. People don't listen to you so you can get what you want. They want to get what they want. They have outcomes, problems, pain they're trying to solve. That's why people listen. And when they believe, and here's the word, believe, whether you're an expert or not, it's a different story. But when they believe that you're an expert and that you're sharp and that you're believing what you're doing, you're enthusiastic, they can't help but want to listen. What that does, it allows you to take control of the conversation, and that is the first step of the straight line. You must take control of the conversation, and then the second step is not so you can then go talk. Well, now that's all I'm doing now because I'm trying to teach you, right? But that's not what the straight line's about. It's so you can start asking questions, smart questions. Once you start asking questions, you can identify their needs, their beliefs, their values, their hierarchy of values, where their pain lies. And while you're asking those questions, you're not just asking questions, you're asking each question using a certain tonality. So you don't say, so, how long have you been in trouble for? They'll say, fuck you, right? So versus, so how long have you been having this problem for? There's certain empathy. Now, I don't have time to teach you the actual, I just don't, I wish I did, but there's certain tonalities that you apply to the questions, and then when they answer, you don't just sit there like a fucking robot. It's like, ooh, yep, yeah, got it. Now, we call that active listening, meaning that when someone is speaking to you, if it's in person, you're using body language and tonality, those little grunts and groans that you make, ahas, yups, that is how you build rapport with someone. It's by asking smart questions, and then when they answer, it's like, ooh, yep, ooh, yeah. And because here's what rapport comes down to, two things. Number one, that they think that he or she cares. They care about me. They're not just here to make a sale. They actually are looking out for my best interest. That's number one. And number two, they're like me. And so there's a likability. They're somehow, and I don't mean like them like if they like fishing, you like, don't play that stupid game. Oh, you like fishing? Oh my God, I like fishing. People see through that shit, okay? I'm talking about you see the world, that you're on the same page with them. This is how rapport is built. If there's one thing that you can do so effective with so little training, once you just know how, is that you can ask prepared questions for your industry, whatever it might be, and ask them in a certain way and listen in a certain way, that by the time that you're done with your last question and you say to them, well, Jim, Jill, based on what you just said to me, this product is a perfect fit for you. Let me tell you why. They're like, go ahead. And here's the ethical part. If your product is not a good fit, don't sell it. Don't just sell for the sake of making a commission. I made that mistake. I had to start over again, so don't use it for that. The system is powerful enough. You can only sell to those you can help. So eliminate the ones out of the pipeline who your product is not right for. Then you ask those questions, get to who you can help. Say, based on what you've said to me, this is a perfect fit for you. Let me tell you why. Magic words, right? And now what's the why? Guess what? The why is the 3 10s. Now you go about making an airtight straight line presentation that covers both logic and emotion, two different things, okay? People don't buy on logic. They buy on, I'm out of time here, sorry. They buy on emotion. They justify the decisions with logic. In order to close at the highest level, you gotta do both. Creating logic is done through words. The words we say, making airtight logical cases, that things make sense. Emotion is creating something called future pacing, where you actually paint a picture of your prospect in the future using your product and feeling good. When you do that, and you've created the logical case, you will start closing at an incredibly high level. What the straight line really is. Look at it this way. Here's the analogy, the closing analogy. Imagine you have a house, right? And in this house, there's 6 or 7 bedrooms. And there's a boiler, a heating system in the bottom, right? And the boiler creates heat, right? It comes from the boiler, right? Then you have these pipes. The piping is what allows the heat to go from all the different rooms without it all being dissipated in the air. So the piping allows you to distribute the heat. The boiler creates the heat. Well, here's the issue. The straight line system does not create certainty. The certainty is going to come from you. You have to start off in a state of certainty. It's part of the system, but it's a different part. It's called the inner game. How do you get yourself into a state of certainty? You know what I always say, like, you know, if salesmen that sounds negative is they can't close. If you're not in a state of certainty, here's what happens. You have nothing to transfer. So the certainty, your belief, comes from you. From essentially selling yourself that what you have is the best, that you are the best, that you're the best person for them, your company is the best, and knowing how to explain it to someone else, but yourself, you believe it, that it comes through those first 4 seconds and every second after that. And then what the straight line system does, it's like the piping. It allows you to transfer that heat. So imagine you're at a 10, you're at a 10 on the certainty scale. You're white hot. Your client's at a 5, they're cooler. The heat comes from you elegantly, without dissipating, to the prospect, raises up their level of certainty. You ask for the order, and that is how you close. Now, I'm so over time, so I have to stop, but here's just one more point before I stop. I just gotta give you one more thing. People don't always say yes when you ask for the order the first time, right? It would be great. I mean, fuck it, I love it. Imagine if you could come up with a way, I tried, believe it, I did, I tried. If you could make the front part, your presentation so great, your rapport building skills so awesome, that everyone who was gonna say yes would say yes the first time you asked for it. That would be a fucking great world, right? You know what? It's fantasy land. That's the only place that happens. In the real world of selling, people say, let me think about it. They say, let me call you back. And what are those objections really? What they are, they're smoke screens for uncertainty. That's what they are. People don't go from a 5 to a 10 in one shot, right? It takes them a little bit of time. So when someone says, let me think about it, it's a signal, they lack certainty. Certainty about what? I don't fucking know. It could be about me. It could be about the product. It could be about my company. It could be logical certainty. It could be emotional certainty, right? I don't know which one it is, but I now know it's one of those 6, and I then use the back half of the straight line system in a strategy called looping, allows me to take that objection, loop back into the sale, and then use it as an opportunity to build certainty for each of the 3 10s, both logically and emotionally, and transition into a close, and you keep doing that again and again, and you get to this spot very quickly where you can close anyone who's closable. That's what the straight line system is, and it just works. It just works. It works better in real life than I can even explain it, and people here know 9 heads, they've used it before, and it's awesome and it's great. Just please use it ethically, okay? I made that, if there's one thing I did wrong, okay, besides snorting 18 pounds of cocaine and taking 50,000 lewds, okay, was allowing myself to get caught up in my own shit. I made a mistake and I lost my ethical way. There's only one way I know of to protect against that for certain. Never take the first step. You can't be half pregnant when it comes to ethics. You can't. I promise you, I come from a very good family. You never broke the law before or after. But once you take that first step, all right, what happens is you go back, you're okay again, but your line of morality moves a bit. And next time you step a bit further and a bit further still, before you know it, you're doing things you thought you'd never do. You're associating with people you thought you'd never associate with, and it all seems perfectly okay. Well, guess what? It's fucking not. It's just there is right and wrong. There is good and bad. I learned the hard way. You don't have to. This system is beautiful, it's elegant, and it works better when you use it ethically. So do that. Go about your life. If we talk about disruption, about business, I believe every person here, especially in this, I travel all over the world. In this country, you have no excuse but not to get what you want in life, your dreams. You deserve it. You have everything at your fingertips here. It's just up to you. It is. So God bless you. All right? I love you all. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you. I think, guys, real quick, I think it's going to be a 15-minute Q&A right now. Kimberly, we're going to do a quick Q&A right now. So I'm going to answer a couple of questions. Right, Kim?
We have some questions. No questions? I don't know. Maybe we can get one question.
Oh, one question. By the way, just so you know, I'm going to say before you leave, I'm actually coming back to New York. I'm doing a one-day event here with Synergy myself for the whole day. Okay, so if any of you are interested, you can just speak to the people in the back here at some point over the next 2 days. Talk about the event with them. It'll just be me for the whole day because I don't have enough time. So I love you all, okay? So you can speak to them back. It'll be, I think the date is January 26th, okay?